Here's another one of those sayings. We find freedom when we no longer take anything personally. There are many versions of a story of the king and the peasant, the rabbi and the sultan. But the one most telling for me is that old one, told before, the Buddhist version. And it's that story about that time, long ago, when Buddhism had flooded the land of China, and there were a myriad of monks wandering the valleys and hills and mountains of that great land, so that it became somewhat burdensome for the monasteries that had flourished, with a number of monks who came to their doors seeking accommodation and food. So there was one such place, a very small monastery nestled in a valley somewhere in that great land, and it was occupied by two brothers, one who was tall and considered to be a great debater and intelligent, and the other who was short in stature and considered to be a little dumb, and having had the misfortune to lose one of his eyes. Now, a ruling was made, because of the numbers of monks wandering, that the way they could find entry into an establishment to have food and lodging was to debate with the resident monks. So there was an occasion when, after a long day, the monastery bell of the gate of this small establishment rang yet again, and the tall brother, who was the one who did the debating, sighed and said to his younger, smaller brother, "I cannot debate one more time today. You will have to debate with this monk who has come to our gate." But the smaller brother said, "But brother, you know that I'm not very intelligent. I'm not good at debating at all." So the older brother said to him, "But all right, well, why don't you just say to this visiting monk that you want to debate with him in silence?" So the monastery gate was opened, and the visiting monk was given entry and taken into a small ante-room with a younger brother. And time passed after a little while, and suddenly the visiting monk came out of the ante-room and picked up his belongings and made his way out the door towards the monastery gate. And the older brother saw him and ran after him and said, well, what happened? What happened? Why are you leaving?" And the visiting monk said, "Well, your brother beat me in debate. I have to go. I cannot stay." And the older brother said, well, tell me what transpired." So the visiting monk said, well, I held up one finger to indicate to your brother the Buddha. And so then he held up two fingers to indicate the Buddha and the Dharma. So then I held up three fingers to indicate the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and he held up his fist to indicate that they're all one. He beat me fair and square. I have to leave. And so off he went out of the monastery gate. So the tall elder brother came in and confronted his younger brother and said, "Tell me, what happened here? Why did this visiting monk leave so abruptly?" And the younger brother said, "Well, he held up one finger to indicate that I only had one eye. And so I held up two fingers to congratulate him on having two eyes. And then he held up three fingers to indicate that between us we only had three eyes. And so I got very angry with him and I held up my fist. Where is he? I want to punch him." So, what does this story do for us in our exploration of what it means to be human, or what it means to be real? What does this story bring up for us about being human?
Indoctrinated perception which relates to us.
Yes.
Personally.
How many people do you meet in a day who you might relate something to, and they immediately bring it back to their own narrative? Is this what we would call part of being human? Because it certainly seems to be something that is present in a great number of the humans that we meet. Isn't this so? How many do we meet who immediately bring the narrative back to us? Well, this happened to me, or maybe you know what I mean. We know it well. Maybe we've been there. But in our exploration as to its meaning relative to what it is to be human, what does it illuminate for us? What does it bring up for us as an awareness about humanness or being human?
Everybody's having their life experience, and so everybody's got their own interesting point of view about whatever it is from their lived perspective. And then just like all the fragments of the prism and all the colours coming together, like if people can hear out each other's points of view and perspectives of the world, then we can all get the picture of the whole.
And this saying, we find freedom when we no longer personalize anything. Is this our experience now? When there's nothing to bring it back to in the form of a self, where does the response come from then? How does it change our interaction with life when we're not bringing everything here to a center or self and responding from that place? What is this freedom we find when we no longer personalize anything. This is a direct question.
We're not reacting to what everybody else point of view,
No.
and we're not translating it into our own. And so you see a lot more, and it's like a vision without interpretation.
Right.
Mm.
Right.
Like being an observer.
Right.
I've noticed that I've become more of an observer.
Yes.
I think it just will show me without the eye.
And does this relate to our stories about the mirror and so forth, the reflections and so forth?
You know, I was talking to my mother during a lockdown. You know, she's nearly blind and very restricted in what she sees and everything. And so I thought I tried to cheer her up and give her a bit of vision of. And so anyway, I was telling her that during the lockdown, I saw this cloud of butterflies, and I haven't seen that since I was a kid. I just thought totally amazing. It was just so beautiful, and I told her that thinking it was gonna give her a thrill. My mother says, they're gonna come into your house and eat all your clothes.
Isn't it amazing?
That's funny.
Yes.